Welcome everyone to the Thrive series. My name is Amna. On behalf of the Thrive planning team, I'm happy to welcome you all to the fall 2022 series. If you've attended a Thrive program before, welcome back. If you are new to the series, we are so happy to have you here. We were delighted to have such a great session last year and are looking forward to the next several weeks with you all again. The Thrive program is a collaboration between mHealth Fairview and the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota. We are proud to offer 6 sessions this fall. Today is the first session, so don't forget to mark your calendar every Tuesday at 6 p.m. You can pick and choose sessions to attend and rewatch the sessions if you're unable to attend them on our website at z.umn.edu/Thrive series. Before we get started, I want to introduce you to the ladies behind the screen. Over the course of the series, you can expect to see us all. So again, my name is Amna Hussein. I am the Masonic Cancer Center's Community Engagement Coordinator. We have Lissa Martinez-Hubner, who will not be joining us tonight, but you will see her throughout the 6 weeks. She is the Masonic Cancer Center's Event and Administrative Manager, and Kaya Varich, who is the mHealth Fairview Survivorship Program Manager, who is joining us today, and you'll be hearing more from her in just a little bit. Now I'm going to actually turn things over to Kaya to get us started.
Hi, Amna. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for getting us started. As Amna said, my name is Kaya Varich, and I am the program manager of survivorship, cancer survivorship at mHealth Fairview. And I am just really excited and to be here tonight to kick off our first Thrive session of the season. Tonight, we will hear from Kathy Washburn. Kathy is a life coach who works with individuals navigating life's most challenging transitions. Kathy experienced an advanced stage vulvar cancer diagnosis and was treated at the University of Minnesota in 2002. Her current passion is to help fill the gap in patient needs during the transition from treatment to life after cancer. And she has founded a Carved by Cancer organization, which is a support network for cancer survivors. Kathy graduated from Northeastern University with a BS in finance and has a project management graduate certificate from Boston University, as well as a positive psychology coaching certification from Whole Being Institute, where she is on the faculty. She is a certified narrative coach and a graduate of the Integrative Development Program from the Moment Institute. Most recently, she completed the professional course in positive neuroplasticity with Dr. Rick Hansen. And as a fun fact, she has spent the last year driving over 10,000 miles across the United States to raise awareness of the quality of life issues after cancer. We are so very excited to have her with us here tonight. We will be recording tonight's session and every session so that you can refer back to these sessions on our website. And one note is that we do edit recordings before we post it to ensure privacy of the participants. One last mention before we get started, please take a moment to locate the mute and the chat buttons. During the presentation, please use the chat box to submit the comments. And then at the end of the presentation, Kathy will be available to answer questions that have come through, or we'll ask at that time to raise your hand. All right, with that, I will let Kathy take it away. Thank you, Kathy, and welcome.
Thank you, Kaya. I am so excited to be here, and this feels like a full circle moment for me. And thanks to all of you who said yes to be here for you. This is a big step in your own healing. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I'd like to start with a grounding exercise, and then I'm going to share a little bit about my story, and then we'll open some doorways to help you reconnect to your body and your life after experiencing cancer. So shall we start? Feel your feet on the ground and your seat in your seat. And just to take a breath and arrive here For the next 55 minutes, we will be together. All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you take along with me just 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are, helped you get to where you are here in this moment? Those who have cared about you and wanted what is best for you in your life. 10 seconds, I'll mind the time. Whomever you have been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference that you feel they've made in your life. Now, those words are all the words from Fred Rogers. It was his acceptance speech at the Emmy Awards in 1997, where he received the Lifetime Achievement Award. Coming up on 3 years, hardly a week goes by that I do not sit and allow Mr. Rogers' words to whisper in my ears. I have that very quote recorded as a voice memo on my phone. What happens in my body when I hear these words is something that I've come to know as warm-heartedness. It's a feeling of truly being cared for, a feeling that I can actually tap into even in the moments I feel alone and not so cared for. Today, I'm here with you on my 56th birthday, and I have many, many humans that come to mind when I contemplate Mr. Rogers' words. Some of them I found right here at the Masonic Cancer Center, because almost 20 years ago, as Kaya noted, I was diagnosed with advanced stage vulvar cancer. It was a very tumultuous time. We had just moved to Minnesota from Massachusetts, and there was some struggle between my family and me getting treated in Boston, and I decided that I wanted to be treated in Minnesota, which meant that friends and family had to travel to Minnesota in the winter. I had never been one to ask for help, and all of a sudden I found myself awkwardly accepting it from pretty much anyone and everyone. When the treatment was over, there was an expectation from myself and those around me to get back to normal. Honestly, nothing was normal. I was silently suffering, had no place to go, but I didn't want anybody to worry about me anymore. I wanted everybody to believe that everything was okay. So it was one of those, get back to your lives, people, nothing to watch here. And so I went along and stuffed the emotional and psychological issues and the deep disconnection that I had to my body. I am a cancer survivor, but that was just part of my story. The other half of my story didn't occur until 15 years later into my survivorship, when my marriage ended. My marriage ended badly. Many marriages do. My marriage ended in betrayal. Many marriages do. But my husband shared with me that he had been unfaithful for 18 of the 25 years. Normal suddenly shattered into a million pieces, tilting the axis of the very foundation on which I existed. It didn't help that at that same time, my sons were gearing up to leave the United States to travel and study abroad, or that I chose the year before to retire from my executive position at an investment advisory firm that I helped start 25 years prior. So my life was broken into pieces. As I looked around, I could see them all. Some of them were beautiful, but all of them so sharp. It was really hard to pick them up and put them back together. But I had this urgency that I needed to do just that. I don't remember what my fingers typed into the search bar, only that I discovered a free online course about the science of happiness. That first night, I stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning going through the first 2 modules, and it was the beginning of something beautiful. Over the last 5 years, I've studied positive psychology, neuroscience, and narrative healing, but it was the theory of post-traumatic growth that became my capstone project. I realized I was studying it at the same time I was experiencing it. So I entered this work to heal myself, but I have been so moved by that experience that I have made a career change so that I could bring this work to you. And there's so much science and research that are in file drawers in medical journals. And I really feel like it is my purpose here to give it legs, so to speak, to reach the people like us who could benefit from it. So I'm going to talk to you about post-traumatic growth, and maybe this is a new phrase for you. It's likely you've heard of its sister, post-traumatic stress, but post-traumatic growth is the experience of positive change that occurs as a result of the struggle with highly challenging life crisis. As we go through life, we rely on a particular set of beliefs and assumptions, and traumatic events typically shatter that worldview, and we become shaken, and we're left to actually rebuild our lives and our world. There is no normal after, we can't go back. So going forward, the theory of post-traumatic growth suggests that through the struggle, we have the ability to change physiologically in our mind, physically in our body, or both, not just bouncing back to the level of functioning prior to the trauma, but rather gaining a sense of positive growth beyond the trauma. So I just want to make clear, I am a life coach. I'm not a therapist, and I've been trained to apply the science of positive psychology in an effort to help people achieve their goals and greater sense of well-being. But there's often a time when there's a therapist and a life coach that are working simultaneously, because there's a lot of therapy that can be had in the healing. Just wanted to make that note. But one truth I want to launch from is that it is really hard to be a changed person in an unchanged environment. Quality of life after experiencing cancer is about shifting from being a patient to a participant in our own health. We know that cancer and its treatment can result in some long-lasting physical, mental, and spiritual change. This concept of post-traumatic growth, or that good can come from suffering, is ancient, and in its essence, it contains an element of possibility. So we are going to explore 9 different elements of post-traumatic growth. I call them doorways, and they all are very highly researched, scientifically backed. I'm going to go through some of them quickly, and others I'm going to highlight a little more and have some felt experiences for you. But before we start, I invite you to take out a piece of paper. I'm going to share my screen just so we can take out a piece of paper, and you're going to make 3 columns in it. And did that work? I hope you're seeing that.
Yes, we can see it, Kathy. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So a piece of paper, divide it into 3 columns. The first column, write 1 to 9. Those are the different elements that we're going to go over. And as I read them to you, in that second column, I just want you to note what the initial thoughts that come up for you. It might be like, I have no problem with this, even just hearing the words, or wow, this is something I have a little more interest in. Whatever comes up for you, as I list them and you fill in the 1 through 9, just make an initial thought about what these bring up. And then as we go through them in a little more detail, that third column is for you to write down further sparks of interest that might come from our time together. So the doorways of growth, and if I could get this, I'm not even going to try technology-wise. I'm just going to list them here for you, and I'll say them out loud and you can put them on your paper. The first one is interpersonal relationships. And this also includes groups, support systems that you have in place. So think about that for a moment. Like, is this something that intrigues you, that you want to know more about? Or you got this one locked in solid, whatever comes up for you. The second doorway to growth is called personal strength. That's that idea of, wow, I got through that. I have some skills that will allow me to get through more. The third one is appreciation of life, or that sense of gratitude. The fourth one, I realize I'm talking fast, I'm sorry. The fourth one is life possibilities. And this also comes up in kind of an optimism or hope. The fifth one is spiritual change. The sixth one is new relationship to the body. The seventh one is new habits to support this new body that we're now walking in. The eighth one is permission to feel. Or emotional resilience. And the ninth one is intimacy. And the way that I look at intimacy is into me, I see, which then allows us to allow another into me to see. And that is all about positive sexuality. So I'm going to keep those up for a second. Again, just take a minute as you write those down, making a little note for yourself in that second column, just what comes up for you. These are 9 different doorways. Many of my clients have some really strong feelings that they're doing well in several of these categories, and realize that there's others that they need to do some work on. So that is the exercise that we're going to go through. So these doorways of growth, post-traumatic growth in particular, was first introduced in 1995. This was the work of Lawrence Calhoun and Richard Tedeschi, and their work came up with those first 5 elements. So the first one is interpersonal relationships. And that is talking about closer relationships and an increased sense of connection with others that suffer. It kind of gives you a different lens to walk in the world with. The original work, their research, was referring to relational intimacy, seeing people in a new light, becoming more empathetic to others that are suffering. And I've expanded this element because I really believe that our supportive connections are crucial to our healing. We are not meant to heal in the vacuum of our own selves. And so I break our supportive connections into 2 groups: the ground crew and the co-pilots. The ground crew are those who have loved us into being, as Fred Rogers says. It's the people that we deeply trust. These are the people that we are going to call when we have good news to share and bad. They keep us grounded. We feel safe and understood. The co-pilots come in several different forms. The first form is a professional or expert connection, and these are your first line of support. If you have experienced cancer yourself, you know the plethora of people that are surrounding you and supporting you, whether that is your oncologist, your surgeon, your all kinds of people. I can't even think of who was involved in mine, but radiation therapists, nurses, these are your first line of support, and they have knowledge in areas that are confusing or unknown to us. And with their supervision, we can make clearer and better choices. So it includes specialists and therapists and even life coaches. Then we have non-credentialed experts. And those are the people who know the particular forest that we find ourselves in because they have experienced it themselves. So they offer a perspective and wisdom from their own experience that can help bolster our confidence and hope. I'm so excited that I see more and more cancer survivorship centers offer people that have experienced cancer to talk with people who are newly diagnosed. I just think that that element of hope that a cancer survivor brings to the table is priceless. Even the people on this call, these would be considered your co-pilots. I call them co-pilots because they help us fly to new versions of ourselves. So when we get into support groups and we can express something to these people who have experienced something that we have experienced, like talk about grief, talk about our body, maybe dysmorphia or shame. When we're able to do that, we can start to heal in this safe place. And then we can go back into the world of our ground crew who we don't talk to in that way because we're worried that we're going to worry them. So it's really important that we find these professional and expert connections as well as non-credentialed experts to help us heal through this process. In an interest in time, I'm gonna move on to the next one, but I just want you to take a note here and highlight if anything comes up for you in this first doorway of growth. Maybe it's support that you are looking for in a support group, looking for more people that have walked through the forest that you're walking in, or maybe it's a specialist that you're interested in connecting with. And this Thrive series is a phenomenal place to start, as there's some really exciting things coming up. If sleep is an issue for you, if intimacy and sex after cancer is an issue for you, there's some really good places to start if this is one of the areas of support that you're looking for. So the second doorway is personal strength. And the research, the paradox is in seeing that we are strong even at our most vulnerable. The research tells us that when we understand what we are actually capable of and able to identify the character traits that helped us through that, then we're better able to navigate other situations. I use a survey with every single one of my clients. It's provided by viacharacter.org. And I don't know if I can put this in the chat. I will take this screen share off if that's okay with everybody. If anybody needs that, please feel free. So I'm going to put the viacharacter.org in the chat. This is, there's a lot of different personality trait surveys that you can do, like Myers-Briggs, and there's a plethora of other ones. Via Character is, it was created with over 50 different researchers, and they went back in time and they came up with 24 character traits that are, we all have all 24, but when you do the survey, they come up in an order. So you have your top 5, and we call them signature strengths. And when you're coming from a place of those top 5, you're coming from a place of authenticity. And many of my clients, when they fill this survey out, some of them just have tears in their eyes saying, yes, that is what is good and right inside of me. And then I asked them to tell me a story when they used one of those character strengths at a time that was very successful for them, or share a story of a time they used one of those character strengths that was a time of struggle for them. It's really a way that we become innately or aware of our innate, unique genius. It's what makes us different and powerful in the world. So that is the second one. And if you want to take a note here to just notice what comes up for you there. The third one is changed priorities or appreciation of life. After experiencing cancer, we often are left with a greater appreciation for what we have and how precious life is. Things that used to bother us may not bother us so much, and things that we used to take for granted, we will never take for granted again. The struggle with trauma allows us to confront and evaluate our priorities. Things become important that might not have been important before. And gratitude is one of the most highly researched elements of positive psychology. It is a game changer when we start to focus on the good of what's happening. And it's not Pollyanna, it's not rainbows. It's really, and sometimes when I write my gratitude journal, it's as simple as my eyes flutter open, my fingers move. And this makes me feel alive. And in this moment, I'm alive. When you start to neuroplasticity is retraining your brain, or having ability to change the way your brain works. And if you start focusing every day, saying, I'm going to write down one thing I am grateful for and how it makes me feel, then what happens is your brain gets it after a little while and starts to look for the good. And that's really important in our world when we're just really hovering in the negative. And we're going to talk about that in emotions in a second. So that's the third one, changed priorities and appreciation of life. The fourth one is spiritual change. After we experience cancer, we look to make sense of what happened and fit into the beliefs that we once held. And as you wrestle with what happened, often a new understanding of life's meaning and purpose may be a result. One of the phenoms in this area, her name is Dr. Lisa Miller. She has a beautiful TED Talk about depression and spirituality. She calls it Two Sides of One Door. And her research is extensive about how the brain works here. And she says that each of us is endowed with a natural capacity to perceive a greater reality and consciously connect to the life force that moves in, through, and around us. Whether or not we participate in a spiritual practice or adhere to a faith tradition, whether or not we identify as religious or spiritual, our brain has a natural inclination toward and a docking station for spiritual awareness. And this awakened brain is the neural circuitry that allows us to see the world more fully and enhance our individual, social, and global well-being. Highly recommend that TED Talk. And if this is something that you want to dive deeper in, I would make a note there for yourself. The fifth one is new life possibilities. And this is this element of hope and optimism. It's a sense that new opportunities emerge from the struggle. Maybe it's the time for a shift in jobs or careers. Maybe it's a time of shift in relationships. But there's this essence of knowing what is possible, and that good can come from this experience. So those first 5, those were introduced in 1995. And then in 2012, Kate Heffernan, a researcher from the UK, said, hey, wait a minute, what about the body after trauma? And I want to note that those first 5, those were all present for me after cancer. All of those fit. And when I stumbled upon the research of Kate Heffernan, I realized this is where I was silently suffering. Kate's work said that in order to understand how people grow and relate to their embodied self after adversity, she believed that we needed 2 more elements of post-traumatic growth. And the first one is a new relationship with the body. Our bodies change. After trauma, we must deal and negotiate with our new body. By reconnecting, we are able to regain, maybe even surpass, previous levels of physical functioning. As we negotiate this new body, we're also kinder, and we listen to our body more carefully if we're guided to do so. Reconnection to the body is about bringing awareness to the new way that our body functions. And this is really scary. And her research notes that we go through this dip first, this dip of often feeling like our body betrayed us, that we don't trust it, where there's kind of a disconnection. But if during that time, we could also start to bring ourselves some self-compassion and some understanding, and try to use our bodies and find those interpersonal relationships, that support that we need to help us reconnect. I interviewed a woman last week who is a what do you call it? Sorry, just lost that. She does manual therapy for breast cancer survivors or any kind of chest surgery. And she works with them before they have their surgery to show them some exercises they can do before to prep. She invites them to set up their house so that when they come back from surgery, they have enough pillows around them, and they have the things that they need. So this is a whole new world called prehab, which you become more engaged in your healing right from the beginning. So there's this, you know what to expect. And it's not to put any Pollyanna on it. It's really to help you become a participant in your health, part of it versus separate from it. So the other part of reestablishing a connection with your body is that it promotes a sense of vitality and thriving when you can connect with your body on a different level. And that's why mindfulness, I often say to my clients, it takes just a different type of meds. We're so used to taking all kinds of medication as we go through the experience, but after in our healing, we need a different type of meds, and that stands for mindfulness, exercise, diet, and sleep. So in mindfulness, there's online programs like Headspace, Insight Timer, Calm. It allows us to kind of connect with our body and just put our mind to rest. Exercise programs, there's a beautiful organization called Survival to Strength, the number 2 Strength. And I'll put this in the chat. And this organization works specifically with cancer survivors. And I believe they might even start in a prehab if in certain types of cancer. but that I believe also is a Minneapolis-based organization that came from one of my clients. Diet, so much that we can do here. One of my favorite books is called Cancer Fighting Kitchen by Dr. Rebecca Katz. Whole Foods is your friend. There's lots of different support that you can get in this area again. So if you're thinking about that first element of post-traumatic growth and tying it to this one. And then sleep, I know that this is a big deal. This was a big deal for me. And one that once I figured it out, it was also a game changer. And there's an October 25th Thrive session that is focusing on that. So this is one exercise that I would love for you to do if you have that another piece of paper, or just turn that one that you have on the other side. And start by drawing an outline of a body. You can use my happy human behind me as a guide. No one's going to see it, so you don't need to be a good artist. And on this map, for the next couple of minutes, I invite you just to note where you often feel things in your body. And you can do this by circling, drawing something. When I first did this exercise, I drew fire in certain places. Just where you carry tension or injuries that you tend to feel. Sensation in your body throughout the day. Maybe it's repetitive use from being on a computer, your wrists. Just find a way to visualize where you feel things. I'll give you 2 minutes to do that. And again, I hate to fast forward this. These are all exercises that we could spend an hour or two on in their own. I just want to give you a quick dip in these different areas to kind of light up for you, maybe different paths that you want to go down. But as you look at your body map, what's your body communicating to you? What might you be seeing that you want to attend to more? Is there a nudge in a direction? What might you be ignoring and hoping it will go away? So I want you to hold that with you for a moment as we move to this next doorway, which is new habits. So this is how we support this new body that we have. The choices that we make to make us happy humans and to increase the quality of our life, those are habits. These are the things that we do every day. And this is the sweet spot of becoming a participant in your own healing, because it's the choices that we make that allow us to stitch together what actually makes us happy. So when you're looking at that outline, and maybe something came up for you that you're wanting to attend to more, or that it drew to your attention, I want you to think about if you were 1% more committed to your health, what would you do with that one thing? That 1% is important because we often try to go from 0 to 100 when we try to make changes. But that 1% might be lay my sneakers out in the morning to encourage myself to go for a walk. Laying the sneakers out is the 1%. Maybe you do that for a week before you move to 1% more and put the sneakers on. And maybe you walk in your kitchen with your sneakers on for a week. That's okay. Slow and steady change is the most powerful change. And we are influenced strongly by our environment. We have triggers all over that kick off habitual behavior. So you're trying to recreate your new habits. The other important piece is community. We talked earlier about support, having the right people around you, and knowing that it's really hard to be a changed person in an unchanged environment. So maybe your partner or who you're living with is not going to be the ones that encourage you to take a walk every day, but maybe somebody down the street is. So start to incorporate these support elements that can help you make the change that you're trying to move forward. There's a lot of different just journal statements. I shared the 1%, if you're 1% more committed to your health, you would blank. Another one that I love is, if I were to boost my energy level by 5% today, I would blank. What would come up for you there? If I were to pay attention to how my body feels today, I will blank. So these are just a few of the ideas in this forming new habits section. So those two elements were introduced by Kate Heffernan. And the last two that I'm going to talk about, they were introduced, I mean, they are highly researched, just not in terms of post-traumatic growth. However, it's been my own life experience and my observation in my work that these are integral parts of post-traumatic growth. And someday I hope to be part of some research that's collecting this data to make it so. The first one is called permission to feel, or emotional resilience. So what I really want to highlight, and if you leave with nothing else other than this tonight, it's that we have positive emotions and negative emotions. We need them both. Think of your emotions like a battery. We need both the positive and the negative to hold a charge. Negative emotions, we have something called a negativity bias, which our ancestors needed in order to avoid two kinds of mistakes. The first mistake was thinking there's a tiger in the bushes when there wasn't one. And the second one was thinking there was no tiger when there actually was one about to pounce. The cost of the first mistake was needless anxiety. The cost of the second one could be you were a lunch or a dinner for the tiger. So the brains evolved to make the first mistake 1,000 times to avoid making the second mistake even once. We call this paper tiger paranoia because we tend to overestimate threats and underestimate opportunities. And we underestimate our inner and outer resources. So negative experiences are like Velcro. They're really sticky. Positive emotions are like Teflon. We have them all day long, but we just tend to let them roll off our back without even experiencing them. But they also help us survive. Our positive emotions are biological and ancestral gifts, just like the negative ones. The positive ones helped us survive in the world because they improve our coping and produce or even grow well-being. They're not just in the present pleasant moment, but over the long term, we build more and more experiences of them, and we're building resources inside of ourselves. As we cultivate positive emotions, it helps us to regulate negative emotions. So instead of the hypervigilance, we're able to look at things and not overestimate the threats. So in order to make positive emotions more sticky, we have to be more attentive to and more intentional with these positive beneficial experiences. So one of the questions that came up when people signed on was they were having some problems with scanxiety or feeling of fear that the cancer was coming back. Emotions only last in our system for 90 seconds. That means that the physiological effects of an emotion, maybe a raced heart rate or sweaty palms, it would dissipate after 90 seconds unless we choose to stay in that emotion consciously or unconsciously. So one of the exercises I give my clients is if they're going in to get a scan, to sit in the chair and just feel what is happening. Notice that your heart is racing. Notice your mind telling you, I've been here before. I'm totally anxious. I feel physically sick. My palms are sweaty. Just let yourself feel the feelings that are coming up, but set your clock for 90 seconds. When the 90 seconds are up, get up from your chair and very slowly go and sit in another chair in the waiting room. And when you sit down there, set your watch for 90 seconds and lean against the back and feel yourself supported in the chair. Feel your breath in your chest. Maybe your lungs are inflating. Notice your fingers are moving. Maybe there's a loved one sitting next to you. Even hold their hand. Notice what is good and right in this moment already inside you. There's thousands of things that are working on your side. So this is an opportunity to be on your own side. When the alarm goes off, your 90 seconds are over, you are now at choice to be in one state or another. You can go back to the reality as it is. Being in a scan, getting a scan done is very anxiety ridden. That is your reality. Or you can choose to feel your feet on the floor, your breath coming in and out naturally, just giving your whole nervous system a break. So emotions are enormously powerful, and I could spend all week talking to you about them. The last one I want to get to, because we're going to go to questions, is intimacy. Into me I see. And this is a part of sexuality, but what I want to make clear is intimacy is defined as the quality of feeling special, of feeling cared for, validated and understood in a close relationship. That does not mean sex. It can lead to that, but it is a much broader meaning than physical closeness or sexual behavior. And the doorway to growth here is self-care. A lot of us put ourselves last on the rung of a very long ladder. And it's this proverbial putting on your oxygen first. You can't help anybody else in your life until you help yourself. So I highly recommend master dates where it's giving yourself permission to take time to connect to yourself. Positive self-regard, self-compassion. Kristen Neff has a beautiful self-compassion meditation on her website. Her book is absolutely beautiful. It's called self-compassion. And there's lots of different things that you can do in this area. And I believe, and maybe Kaya can help me on the date for this one, that the Thrive series is having. So I rushed through this. I could really do a deep dive in all of it. I so appreciate your gift of time, and I hope that it was of a benefit, and I'm happy to answer any questions that came up. Phew, Kaya, how are you?
Thank you. Gosh, Kathy, thank you so very much for all of the wisdom and the tips and the resources you shared. My pen was furiously scratching as you were talking. We did have one direct message question. If you could put in the chat that cookbook that you referenced.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but the tips about that innate, unique genius, I thought that was such a neat perspective to consider. And that was from that viacharacter.org website. We have that reference. The new way to think about meds. I thought that was very insightful. And then lastly, that 90-second suggestion for letting that emotion pass. I think, again, my page, I could go on all night about those. But so yes, again, Amna too, thank you for clarifying. Please do submit your questions in the Q&A, not the chat function. One question I had, Kathy, wondering if, and this is not intended to be a trick question by any means, but what is the appropriate timing for someone in their cancer journey to start really kind of diving in and concentrating on these doorways? You know, survivorship has such a varied and a broad definition, but if in your experience in the work you've done, if there could be a place where it would be appropriate for people on their cancer journey to start the work, that would be helpful if you could give us that insight.
Yes, there's a level of it that is available at any stage. And by that, I mean, we have this ability, this innate ability inside of us, just like that 90 seconds, to learn to give ourselves this time that we can just know all is well. In this moment, I am okay. That bathes your whole nervous system to say, okay, I'm okay in this moment. And you can go back to your reality, but you have a little stronger resource in that moment. So there's little things that you can do at different stages. This idea of prehab, of engaging and understanding what is happening in your body. Somebody asked me if I was going back 20 years, if like what I would have wanted somebody to do, or how they could help me. And if somebody had said to me, look, your body, you know, your vagina is going to be very different. It's going to take time to heal, but you have a team of people and we can help you, and we can help you understand your new body, help your partner understand, like just that knowledge of you're not alone, instead of me. And I know this has changed a lot in 20 years. I know that there's way more resources than were available to me then. But just to know that you're not alone is, again, settling the nervous system. As I've shared, I didn't start doing this work until 15 years later. I wonder what my life would have been if I had started it earlier. And I don't let myself go there, but at the same time, I really do think that there's things that we can do to help ourselves get back on our own side and start being a participant in our health. Because that cutoff when you're finished treatment feels so abandoning. You're like, where am I going? What's happening? I don't know if that really answers.
No, it does. That was a great answer. And we do actually have a comment here. Just thank you so much for your compassion. This person is 9 months out in recovery, but the worst part is that feeling of being lonely. And I think that you just really touched on it there, that, you know, just having this information to carry with us wherever we are in the journey. Just recalling there are little steps, little doorways, as you might say, that we can find some space there to do some reflection.
I'll actually
Go
put the quote from Fred Rogers, because that's one of those things when I hear it, it reminds me that I'm not alone. And my brain remembers the thousands and thousands of people that have helped me to be where I am now. And it shifts the nervous system in a way, even when you're feeling very alone, you also know that you're cared for.
And while you're putting that in the chat, we had another question about that TED Talk that you mentioned, if you would mind dropping that in. And just a little bit of housekeeping. I do see Amna, thank you for putting that in the chat, that we do have the upcoming sessions the next couple of Tuesdays. The sexuality talk is on November 8th. We have one of our survivorship practitioners at the University of Minnesota, or M Health Fairview. She will be doing that presentation. And as she mentioned, we have lymphedema. I think that was a word you were mentioning earlier. Lymphedema is next week. And then we also have the sleep talk upcoming. And then another topic focused kind of on this loneliness, caregivers. So really, again, a great lineup. You can see that in the chat that Amna has the titles and the dates for those presentations. Also, Kathy, I wanted to wish you a very happy birthday. Thank you so much for joining and spending it with us. We have another comment as well from another participant about your birthday. The other thing that I wanted to mention to the group is that there will be a survey emailed to the participants tonight. So please do complete that for us. And you will get a chance to win a swag bag if you complete that survey. If there are any other questions, I'm going to hop back to the Q&A here, make sure I didn't miss anything.
You know, I'd love to add, I have some great emotional resources I'd love to add to your swag bag. So I'll send it to them.
Great.
They're really well done and just help us ground and get in touch with our emotions, because often cancer survivors have some emotional work to do.
Yeah, and I do have actually one other comment came, and I'll just read it. It's beautifully written. She just says, or she or he, I'm sorry, this was very, very helpful. Thank you so much for bravely sharing your own story with us. I applaud you for mastering these 9 elements yourself. Happy birthday. Today is this person's 8 years since being diagnosed with leukemia. She or he had to learn to get to know the new me. It was not easy. And now this person works as an oncology social worker. And though sharing their own story, using things that I learned through these trainings to assist patients and further my own personal growth. 8 years later, I'm still learning to love myself. And I'm going to edit this. They write, despite all my deficits. And I would say, just with all the wonderfulness that you are in your person. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Amna, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think you have just a few more announcements.
Yes, well, we are out of time tonight. I feel like the hour just flew by, but a huge thank you to you, Kathy, for just being here today and joining us on your birthday too. So happy birthday to you, and thank you for being here tonight and spending some time with us. So as a reminder, Kai did mention this, the recording will be available the end of this week, so you can refer back to it. And then also you will receive a link to complete just a quick survey via email. So the survey feedback that you give us will help us continuously improve. And then again, you will be entered in to win that swag bag. And so we look forward to seeing you all next week. We will be hearing from Carrie and Renata, 2 rehabilitation specialists who will be discussing the important topic of lymphedema management. So we hope to see you all then. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Take care and see you next week.